Hey guys, Roddy Walker here, and today we're going to talk about the 6 steps that will improve your credit. Right. These 6 steps are not just something that I've made up, they're something that I've used and utilized myself. So I want to share that with you guys so that hopefully you guys will get the same results. So with that being said, let's go to step 1. So step 1 is open accounts. When you're just starting out and you have 0 credit, your credit is actually worse than somebody who is in debt, overly extended, and owes a ton of money. And that's because you have 0 credit history. So the lenders, everyone sees you as unpredictable. If you're someone who is in the other situation to where you can open accounts because your credit's in a bad situation, one thing you can do is you can start finding different creative ways and methods like I had to do to get secured credit cards. There's specific brands that will give you different credit lines and they don't have any type of approval that you have to go through. Usually they're like store cards, stuff like that. But there are ways to actually get credit when you're in a position where no one's wanting to lend you credit. So I would look into the secured cards and I would look into the store cards. And I would look into websites offering finance without checking your credit. So anything like that, it's going to give you credit to start working towards. But understand when you do this, you have to make the commitment with yourself that I'm doing this to earn good credit. I'm not doing this so I can spend more money. I'm doing this so I can earn better credit. So whatever I'm purchasing, I plan to pay back right away just so I can establish new credit. Because that's the first thing you want to do. You're going to want to establish anywhere from 3 to 5 accounts. You can establish more if you want. If you really don't feel comfortable, you can honestly establish less. Describe why you want to do 3 to 5. Let's say like you have 1 account, because there's plenty of people who have 1 or 2 credit cards and they have a great score, right? Let's just say they miss 1 payment. Their score is going to dramatically be hit more because they only have 2 accounts versus someone who has 5. Because they have 5, if 1 gets hit, they still have 4 left. So you have to kind of think of it in that aspect. The more accounts you have, the more it kind of covers you if one of your accounts goes bad, whether that's a missed payment, something happens to that account where it no longer is in a good standing. So that's why I always say 3 to 5. You can have more if you want. I think I have around 18 right now. But more or less, that is not necessary for everybody. That is just a personal preference, and that is just engineered for the stuff that I'm trying to do. If you're new to credit, it's going to be difficult to acquire it. Same thing with the people who are having difficulties with getting the debt. You can do the secured card, or you can do student credit cards if you're in that student range. So when you're in college, it's actually easier to get it. You could take the money that you have and you can pay it off with these card purchases. Think of it as a convenience thing. If you use your card, you can just swipe it, right? And then you already have the money in your account, you just pay it right off. And the reason why this is important is because it builds credit history. And then now the banks are saying, okay, now this so-and-so is paying their cards off on time. And I'm seeing them only spending a certain amount of money each month and they're paying it right off. So that's your goal. You're just showing these institutions that you can handle the money that they're borrowing to you. You don't have to be this crazy spender. Like you can use these as if you were going to spend on other stuff that you were already going to buy and just pay it off. Step number 2, pay off your balances. You have to pay off your balances because every time your statement ends, every time it comes time for you to pay your bill, that's when they're going to be looking the most at what your balance is. And if they see that your balance is anywhere more than 30%, then your score is going to go down and something's going to happen. So you don't want any negative impacts on your credit because your utilization is less than 30%. So if you don't know what I mean by utilization, all I'm basically saying is, let's say 100% utilization is if you maxed out your card. You use the full balance. So you have $1,000, you spend all 1,000. By the time your statement comes around, if your balance is still $1,000, they're going to ding you because you overspended what they wanted to give you. They're going to give you this balance, but they expect you to only use about 30% of it on average. They don't want you carrying over that balance to next month at over 30%. This brings me actually to step 3. I wouldn't even do 30%. I would actually do 10%. Because this teaches you how to get your limits higher. If you think about making your limits 10%, then you're usually always in the green. I like to think of 30% as you're just one step away from going into debt. into really being in a situation to where your score could go down. So I like to stay at 10%. And that gives you more motivation to think, hey, I need to get these balances up higher if I want to spend more money. So if I have $10,000 balance, if I use 10% of that, then that's way better than having a $100 balance and only using 10% of that. That's how you have to kind of think about it. And it all starts off small. You're going to get these small balances and you're going to need to treat them like they're big balances, only using 10% of them, using them responsibly. I have a spreadsheet on my computer, which allows me to see every single card that I have, and then I plug in what the amount is that I'm spending on them. And it will tell me if I'm over 30% or not on each card. You just do times 0.30 or 0.10, which is 10%. And then you'll be able to calculate what 10% utilization is. If you follow this rule, it will definitely help. And it will definitely make lenders notice that, hey, this guy isn't really overusing his cards. He's spending on them, but he's definitely using them very carefully to where he's not overextending himself. Therefore, we don't fear that he's a risk right now. So we're going to let him keep his limit, and we might increase it in the future. Another thing you want to do, and this is why I have my spreadsheets, which you don't have to, but if you're not going to use a spreadsheet, you need to be disciplined, and you need to understand that you're going to be in your phone apps, and you're going to kind of be checking how much you're going to limit yourself to spending, because you got to create spending limits. To make this sound simple, let's just say I did have $1,000 limit. If I set a spending limit to it to $100, then when I look at that card now, I no longer see that I have $1,000 to spend. I'm talking about mentally telling yourself this. I only see $100 that I can spend. So that's what I mean by setting that spending limit. It doesn't matter what your limit on your card is right now. It only matters what 10% of that limit on your card is. So $1,000, you're only going to spend $100 out of that. So all these rules, they kind of go hand in hand in a sense. If you're following your spending limit, then that's what's going to keep you at that 10% utilization. So next rule, step 5, is you're going to want to use autopay on every single account you have. You're just going to want to do it. If it's a credit account, you're going to want to use autopay on it. Why you're going to want to do this is because people forget. And for people like me, especially who have like 13 accounts, you don't want to risk missing a payment. So you're going to want to use autopay, and if that account doesn't allow you to use autopay, then that's not an account that you want to carry a balance on ever. Like the second you use that account, you pay it off. If you ever have an account where you're going to pay it off in 2 or 3 months or 6 months, it better have autopay on it, because this is going to set yourself up for success. Missing payments can make it so you don't get more credit. It can make it so your score goes down like 50 to 100 points. It can do a lot of negative things to your credit report and your credit profile as a whole. You never want to miss a payment. That's why I say always have autopay. So last step, and this step I think is super important that people don't talk about, step 6, prioritize credit, bills, and accounts. If you have a bill that doesn't have to do with your credit, like it's not an auto payment, it's not a credit card, it's not a mortgage, basically if you don't pay it, it won't affect your credit or won't affect your credit right away. This is stuff like utilities, this is stuff like phone bills, this is stuff that isn't directly connected to your credit. If you're having trouble paying your credit, you need to put those other things on payment plans, and you need to try to extend them out as much as possible. If you got to call on their number to that company and say, hey, I'm going to be a month late, I'm going to make payments to you, or I'm going to make a payment plan. If you work with these people and you call them, they will not shut your service off. You can do this the same with your credit companies too if you're below and behind on them. But understand, you're not going to get the ding from these other companies because it's not associated with your credit. Do not let them get to the point to where they can't get a hold of you and they're going to put you in collections. Because the second they put you in collections, that's when it is going to go on your credit score unless you pay off that huge collections and you got to pay it off in full. You want to make sure that you are making payment plans with these other people, because you need to prioritize paying off your credit accounts first and foremost. You're never going to pay your phone bill if you're not going to be able to pay your auto bill, if you're not going to be able to pay your credit cards. You call the phone company and you tell them, hey, I'm running behind on my payments. Can I make a payment plan with you? As long as you work with them, they will be willing to keep your service on as long as they see that you're making the payments and you're doing your part. you need to prioritize those credit accounts that are going to affect your credit. Because the phone bills, the utilities, none of that stuff's going to go on your credit unless you ignore these people and don't talk to them long enough to where they put you in collections. And then that goes on your credit report. So just a rule of thumbs, always prioritize your credit accounts. Pay them first, make sure that they're in good standing. You want to pay them in full, you want to get them paid off, but you don't always have to. A payment is better than no payment. Basically, you need to call these people and let them know if the payment's going to be short or if the payment needs to be extended. You need to communicate. This is important whether it's a credit account or whether it's just your phone bill. It's just to get better at being a communicator with whoever you're paying to and let them know what's going on. There are moments where you just won't have the money sometimes, There are situations where something comes up, an emergency. So it's our jobs as consumers to communicate this to whoever we're talking to, and that way we're in the clear. So those are the 6 steps that we have to talk about today. I hope you guys learned a good portion. I'm going to do more videos like this because there are more than 6 steps, but these are the 6 steps that I follow personally that have helped me and many other people acquire great credit. Okay, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.